Ever since the budget's come out, I've been calling on her to explain to the workforce that she employs and to the public what she would cut to get that $1.25 billion. If you divide $40,000 into that, say an average salary of $40,000, that's over 30,000 jobs. So her cuts are pretty severe too. So she's out there saying, you know, we will not, the public service will be as big in 4 years from now as it is today, all those sorts of things, but she's never once answered the question. We did 4 teletown halls. I had 22,000 OPSO members on over 4 phone calls. The biggest fear they have is that their work will be either cut or privatized, but mostly cut.
Remember back in the election when we were talking about how you balance this $12.5 billion deficit that is growing by the day, and that the government, who has a spending addiction, can't figure out how to pay it down, has no money to pay the bills. Do you remember back in the election when we were saying she can only do it by raising taxes or cutting? Well, we can't say we didn't tell you so. And we can't tell you that our next guest didn't say he told you so, because there he is saying, I told you so. Anyway, his name's Smokey Thomas, and he joins us now again. Do you remember when you said that?
Yes, I do, actually. It's hard to forget.
You did warn people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, nonetheless, you now say this government is declaring war on the public sector. And I'll be the first, you know my standing on the public sector. Yeah. I do think there need to be reductions made. But nonetheless, my bigger issue is that she said she would not cut the public sector. And now what?
Well, we're in bargaining with, so I hope the public, I'm going to try and explain it so you can understand it, because it's collective bargaining. But the last line of defense between more government boondoggles and privatization and outsourcing and alternative service delivery is the language in our collective agreement. So the structure of the workforce, all that kind of stuff. The government's motto is simplify and sell. I have 2 fears. One is a fear for my members. My job is I got elected to represent their interests, and that's what I'm doing. But I'm also a taxpayer, and my other probably greater fear is, because we can look after members, my greater fear is that we'll see more boondoggles such as Orange Air. We'll see more corporate giveaways to Honda, because that's just corporate welfare. We'll see all these things. So as we sit and talk, the government is reducing services. There are cutting back on people, you know, who really are in dire need. So if they're successful in the war on us in the collective agreement, there really won't be much to stop them from taking IT jobs, for example. The government has computers. They have to have people look after them. So $40, $50 an hour jobs, some 30. There'd be nothing to stop them from just the wholesale of giving that to consultants at $150, $250 an hour. And that's going on as we speak. I've met with the Premier, I've met with Deb Matthews twice. I offered Deb Matthews a table. I said, Deb, there are savings to be found. Andrea Horvath was not wrong. Tim Hudak was not wrong. They were both right, just different perspectives. But there is ways to be found. There is ways to make it more efficient without hurting services and without hurting working people. I offered her a table. I said, tell you what, I showed her rate $250 million a year savings in the IT sector right off the get-go. All she had to do was not do something, just put a stop to it. She chose not to. They've outsourced 500 more IT jobs that are now going to go from a burden rate of about $40 or $50 an hour to $200, $250 an hour. And that's just wasteful, a waste of the taxpayers' money.
So what are you looking at? I mean, you're in bargaining now. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, you guys are threatening strike by the new year. How many people are we talking?
38,000 workers, direct frontline government workers, so service.
So how's my life? How is my viewer's life going to be uprailed by this?
I'd say 2 things. My goal is to get a deal without a strike. Nothing will happen before the new year, because in the public service is governed by law, so we would have to go bargain what we call essential service agreement, so the essential services of the government.
But what services are we talking?
So getting out ODSP checks, welfare checks, keeping the correctional facilities operating, like the command center for the 401 would operate, stuff like that. But I hope if I can find a way for myself to have people understand that this really is one time where workers' interests and the public interest are in harmony, then I think we could all say to the government, stop what you're doing, stop wasting money, stop making these cuts. And we're not looking for much. We're just looking to keep on working. But they're looking, I guess I'd have to say this, I love teachers. I have lots of friends that are teachers, but I guess the Premier was in the House yesterday and said that the 400 and some million that they put back into into the education system was worth it for labor peace, and yet here I am sitting today when she's just deliberately picked a war with us. I left the bargaining table. I don't understand. It's a very political document. They've introduced politics into collective bargaining, and I think we're just in for a big punch up.
Hey, look, the unions put her into power. They gave her the majority, and only certain union members, I guess, are worthy of labor peace. Look, why would she pay out the teachers and not other public sector? I mean, is that the mood or the view of other public sector workers? Are they not looking at this saying, hold on a second, why are teachers the only part of this deal?
I think, I guess some of those teacher unions are now taking strike votes, apparently. I'd say there's some embarrassed labor leaders out there.
Yeah, look, you were not popular during the election. I mean, you were outcast by guys like Sid Ryan.
I'm still not popular with them, and I don't care actually. But they're now realizing, wait a minute, this isn't the most progressive budget here. I doubt we'll ever see a pension plan. I really do.
You're talking about the Ontario provincial plan.
Yeah, it's the
well, look,
Ontario.
the bottom line is, your people don't have to pay it. It's the private sector who's going to have to pay that pension plan. Yeah. And I think you're going to see a real divide between the private and the public sector, because why should a viewer here have to pay this extra tax and not the public sector? And there's going to be this imbalance between the private and the public sector. I think
I agree with your point, and but the imbalance also with the very wealthy will still do okay, but average working people they're suffering now, right? And, I mean, it's hard to get by. You live in paycheck to paycheck. But again, I would just say this: I talked to a lot of people in the private sector, a lot of business people, and they agree we have a lot in common. I was at the Ontario Economic Summit by the Chamber of Commerce. Very powerful group of people in that room. And the Chamber they conceded that the 5-point plan that OPSA was put forward that the government should adopt as policy before you privatize the service, they actually conceded, Josh said they conceded, and they agree that the government should adopt that before they privatize anything, they should actually do some real due diligence, and then if at the end of it all it makes sense to do it, then do it, and you shut a guy like me up. Bottom line. Tim Hudak, he was demonized during the election, and he was basically demonized and kicked out because he told the truth. Yeah, I guess I've said it before. I guess the biggest mistake he made was that he was really honest and about what he was going to do. But a better approach, and I actually said this to someone, would be we'll sit and just look at how to restructure the government. It's just a terrible mess right now. So what can Kathleen Wynne and her majority government expect as far as unions are concerned in the next little while? Are we going to see protests? Are we going to see any Mike Harris type protests? Because Mike Harris didn't pull this stuff. Well, this is worse than Mike Harris anything he ever tabled. And at least I said this yesterday in London at a rally. Mike Harris at least came straight up. He said, I don't like it. Here's what I'm going to do. And he did it. Kathleen Wynne smiles while she puts the knife in your back. I predict, I can't speak for other unions, but for my union, yes, there's labor unrest already in the Ontario Public Service, like the big government unit. But there's labor unrest throughout the entire broader public service. And it's not, and we're not like, some of my people are getting a 0.5% raise, some are getting 1%, some are getting lump sums of $500, most are getting nothing. So it's not about the money. It really is not about what really galls the ass of working people, the people that actually work for people, right, take care of people, is that they see cuts every day to frontline service. We're seeing it now in home care, and though the Minister, Eric Hoskins, the Minister of Health says, oh no, there's really no cuts. Well, there is. My people do that work. And they tell me, no, we used to get like 6 hours, now you're getting 4. So the real cuts are that you don't see, that can't get on TV like me, and you're wonderful. You had me on here, give me my soapbox, but I do my thing. The real cuts are the real working people, real people in need that can't work for themselves, can't represent themselves, and don't have a voice. So this contract is a watershed moment. It's going to be one of those when you look back and go, oh boy, that was the good fight. And I didn't pick the fight. My workers didn't pick the fight. Kathleen Wynne picked it, but I can rest assured we'll finish the fight. I'll stay tuned, because we told you so. Yep. Thank you, sir. Smoke.